monsters.
He was also our last undefeated player. He was X-0 coming into day 2, the only player to do so. Picked up a loss the first round of day 2 against Rudy Briscoe, who now finds himself at X1 and potentially in a position to draw in if Rudy's able to win this coming round.
An island to start here for Mize, a wooded foothills here for OBryant. He'll go down to 19. Will Christopher? I have a feeling an Elvish Mystic will probably be on the way here, and it is.
An Elvish Mystic is so important in this matchup, much like White Blue Heroic against Jeskai tokens. Both of these decks so much better at being on the offense than on the defense. So being on the draw, one of the most important ways to break serve is with a mana accelerant. Could allow Christopher to get ahead on the board or have his removal actually hit on time.
Again, Logan, Mize, Steven Mann, Florida area players who did actually take the trip up here from Florida because they liked their deck that much. And it's certainly paying off here. You see Mize at 10-2. As here's the Fnatic of Xenagos. We'll see if the tribute will be paid and how Logan wants to deal with this. But Mann clocking at 8-3. Both those players could make the elimination rounds.
I suspect this matchup is going to be challenging for Christopher because he has a lot of the same issues that Jeskai Tokens has in the matchup, which is no real way to get a large creature off the table, but doesn't even have Jeskai Charm or sideboarded cards to help to that effect. So Logan can be pretty comfortable pushing something as large as possible, as fast as possible, because Christopher doesn't have a lot of ways to interact with a really large creature that comes into play very quickly.
Well, let's see what Mize is able to put together here. Third turn of the game, Hero of Iroas, mana untapped. He could have a really, really big turn involving Ordeal of Thassa, Stratus Walk, who knows what else. You see his hand, he does have a Stratus Walk there, a God's Willing, also a copy of Stubborn Denial. Looks like a Battle-Wise Hoplite and a Seeker the way of the last couple of cards. So not the most explosive turn in the world, but can still be a pretty good one. There's a Seeker.
Something to keep in mind, a powerful card potentially in Christopher's deck is Stormbreath Dragon, because it's something that allows him to play some amount of defense. He can have a pro-white creature on defense. It's not very easy for White Blue Heroic to get through, especially a deck that's leaning on Stratus Walk so much, like Logan's build is. And then when you're ready to flip it and go on offense, it kills very quickly. So Christopher kind of wants to play defense, use removal if he can, get to Stormbreath Dragon, and then either be on the offense or defense as appropriate.
The Seeker, the way into passing of the turn there was how Mize finished his third turn of the game. Now we are on OBryant, and he has a Goblin Rabble Master that he's happy to cast. And he will just pass the turn back. So both players building up a board here, but who can break through is the question. You did mention Stormbreath Dragon, and OBryant does have a copy in his hand right now. Johnny's presence to draw here from Mize.
Again, if Logan's able to go through Aqueous form, then not even Stormbreath Dragon will last no block. But if his method of giving evasion to something is Stratus Walk, Stormbreath Dragon on defense is very powerful.
It looks like it may be time for a Stratus Walk. That'll be targeting Hero of Iroas, of course. A Rogue Trigger will make that into a 3/3 creature. Time to cantrip, draw a card, Will Mize. Looks like Ordeal of Thassa is what he's found. That's a pretty good one to find right now.
Absolutely. I mean, this lets him really go on the offensive and trigger the Ordeal this turn.
Can't forget that Seeker is getting bigger as we go as well. So not a bad start here for Mize. And here are the attacks. Trigger here. Draw a couple of cards here, Will Mize. And right now, Seeker of the Way is a 4/4. Has 2 spells being cast, and Hero of Iroas is a 5/5 flyer. So you mentioned the difficulty of taking down big creatures. Not really lining up great here for OBryant thus far.
And it's hard to imagine Logan would offer up the trade with the Seeker of the Way unless he had some other way to follow up and pump through the Fnatic of Xenagos. But Christopher may have no option other than to block and see what's going on, because I don't know if he can take a hit this big.
And Johnny's presence is going to play a role this turn too, in case anything goes really bad. He might just want to cast it to get offensive. And he's going to do that to get some more damage through. It's a pretty nice turn here for Logan.
Yeah, this Johnny's Presence represents an extra 3 points of damage from the Johnny's Presence itself, a Heroic Trigger, and a Prowess Trigger, and a Gain of Life. And because Logan's tied up on mana, you know, he just wants to cast something this turn because he's likely to end the game with cards in his hand regardless.
So a bunch of damage dealt, a bunch of life gained, and a very nice turn there for Mize. You saw the first couple of turns, just setup turns, nothing crazy. Play Hero of Iroas, play a Seeker of the Way, but broke down the gates on turn 4.
And again, this is because Christopher is red-green monsters and not Jeskai, he does not have a way to effectively fight a large creature. I mean, he can try to get to Crater's Claws or something like that, but he has nothing as smooth as Jeskai Charm. And so Logan can be very aggressive in chaining his creatures.
Rabble Master. going to come into the red zone. God's willing from Logan. He's going to show him, I've got another way to make my creature bigger. Christopher OBryant says, that's all I need to see. So we're going to head to game number 2 here as Logan Mize does win game number 1 here over Christopher OBryant. White, blue, heroic, up a game here over red, green monsters. So we turn our attention to the sideboard, and we will start with OBryant and his monsters deck. You have mentioned Destructive Revelry being an option for him.
Well, he's got 2 copies of Ash Cloud Phoenix, 4 copies of Hunt the Hunter, 2 Magma Sprays, 4 Destructive Revelries, and 3 copies of Barrage of Bolters. So actually, for me, the most exciting card in the sideboard is Magma Spray. I think cheap shocks are really important for him to have early interaction. The Destructive Revelries, I'm skeptical of just because I don't think Disenchants are really that effective against White-Blue Heroic. That said, there's a lot of inefficient cards that Christopher can cut from his deck, and the upside's probably worth the risk.
Other side of things here from Mize. 2 copies of Bermaz, 2 Treasure Cruise, 3 Glare of Heresy, a Triton Tactics, an Ordeal of Heliod, 2 Erase, 3 Star Morale, and then a Mortal's Ardor. A little bit different than what Stephen Mann is playing. They're playing a very, very similar list. Sideboards are just a touch different for these players. But as far as options are concerned, it's not going to surprise you. You're not really going to find a lot against red-green monsters. It's not a very popular deck, so there's not going to be anything that really stands out that, hey, this is not going to be Storm Dragon or Fnatic Xenagos or what have you. Anything here that you really like?
Well, I think there's some small upgrades that can be made here. I like the extra copy of Ordeal of Heliod because I think the Ordeals are just generally powerful for Logan in this matchup. On top of that, the 1 copy of Triton Tactics can be a really powerful combat trick and can fizzle a lot of the red removal that you would anticipate Christopher bringing to the table. Past that, I suppose Bermaz is an option if he wants to have a more durable threat, but Christopher's deck is probably much better pound for pound on the ground than something like Bermaz can really generate, so Bermaz may come in, but that's more fighting Christopher's game. I do like the extra Ordeal, and I do like the extra Titan Tactics.
Now, Logan Mize during Season 2, where he really broke out in Season 2 of last year was making the elimination rounds of our Season 2 Invitational. Now, of course, the boss, Tom Ross, did destroy that tournament, and he got his first of 2 tokens for the year. But we talked about tokens from the Invitational. When you win one, you get one. And Dylan Donegan has the newest one. That'll be coming out here soon. It is his fantastic-looking Elemental token.
Yeah, Chris Van Meter's got a little competition now that we have a second Elemental token. Of course, Dylan Donegan doing a lot of work with the blue-red Delver deck in Legacy, so no surprise to see him going with the Young Pyromancer token.
And of course, now with the orders on Star City Games, we have actually a new way for you to get invitational tokens. Before we would hand them out at these Open Series events, we still will. They'll be given all Open Series and Premier IQ competitors, of which we've got about 400 in the room today. But also with each online order over $5, you'll get this Tom Ross token to start the year, and we'll be working our way towards Dylan's token soon.
Absolutely. This is a limited time offer, though, so if you're interested in Tom Ross Vampire, then I would suggest attending an Open Series or Premier IQ or placing an order on the website, $5 or greater.
I can't wait to see as we work our way towards our Season 1 Invitational for 2015. We'll be in Richmond there, you, me, and Matthias. Whoever wins that tournament, what kind of new token will be made for that one? I love Dylan's token. I'm hoping that someone makes the monk from Monastery Mentor. I wouldn't mind seeing a Master of Waves token.
If people are playing with those monks, I can assure you someone's going to hop on. All anyone cares about is being on camera a lot.
Absolutely.
That's the only thing that matters.
A favorite Hoplight's going to start things off, and a Magma Spray is going to get that off of the table. So lowering the curve, having some removal, certainly a big deal for OBryant. However, a little bit of a mana issue here. No green mana at this point. Mize is going to just pass the turn back. OBryant draws another mountain. He does have a Rabble Master, however. That's going to come in, bring a Goblin with it, and 1 point of damage is going to come across.
Rabble Master is important for Christopher because Logan can't really kill it. It gives him some aggression, but he can't leverage this card quite as effectively as Jeskai tokens can. He doesn't have the same saturation of removal, and he doesn't have Jeskai's Ascendancy to really go crazy with. So this is a nice start, but unless he finds green mana, it's unlikely to be enough.
You saw Mize didn't play a creature on turn number 2. No Battle-Wise Hoplite, no Hero of Heroes, none of that stuff. Now that could be on purpose. Kind of get a little bit better texture of his hand now. He's going to play a Flutterstrand as his land. But we've seen Stephen Mann do that a lot when we watched him play. Now here's a Hero of Heroes, probably playing that, so he has protection with God's Willing. Mana Confluence to draw there for OBryant. That's a big one. That'll give him green mana.
3 copies of Mana Confluence in his deck, same way as Logan Mize. Even though these are 2-color decks, they're trying to generate 2 colors of mana very early on in the game, and so you have to cram every effective dual land you possibly can.
There's a Goblin token. Looks like Rabble Master's going to come in the red zone along with his friends. See how Hero of Iroas wants to block. God's Willing could make this a tough block. But Hero of Iroas is just going to eat a Goblin.
God's Willing is also an incredibly risky play if he puts it in front of the Rabble Master. So I think Logan, trying to preserve his creature, no reason to make a move that bold just yet.
Elvish Mystic is the follow-up. And we're going to be heading back Mize's way. He's got a hero, and he's certainly got some auras to cast. So this could be a big turn, much like what we saw in the last game. It only takes one turn to really turn things around.
That is true, though. If he does not have Ordeal of Heliod, it is a bit of a challenge. He can go on the offensive, but without some big source of life gain, it's possible he's way behind on the damage race because Goblin Rabble Master just represents so much damage.
We'll see what number 9 on our Season 1 leaderboard here for 2015 can put together. You see Ordeal of Thassa, 2 copies, Defiant Strike. A lot of options available here for Logan. But he's certainly under the gun here from the Rabble Master. And you have to imagine, too, if you're in Logan's spot, well, you just played Elvish Mystic, you just found green mana, something's coming from you.
For sure. I mean, he has to be worried about Stormbreath Dragon, for example. He has to be worried about a large Crater's Claws. There's a lot of things to be concerned about. And you can see why Ordeal of Heliod is so important for Logan post-board here. And, you know, the only thing he can really do is go on the offensive. He can't kill creatures. And so without a source of life gain, it's just the best he can do against the best that Christopher can do. And it's going to be hard to race a Rabble Master.
Logan going to search up an island here. A little bit of tension in the mana. Flooded Strand's a great mana fixer, but it's not a dual land. We know that. It's no Temple of Enlightenment. It's no Tranquil Cove. So you have to be careful with what you do search up here. So now he's only got 1 source of white mana. Can't do a ton with it. See if that comes back to hurt him a little bit. We'll start with Aqueous Form. Trigger here. Ordeal of Thassa there. There's a trigger for Heroic. Now it's time to get into the red zone. Little stack action here. Going to resolve the Ordeal first, and then we'll see him scry with Aqueous Form. Top card becomes the bottom one now. Yeah, looks like 5 damage is going to come across. Now keep in mind, after Sideboard, OBryant has 4 copies of Destructive Revelry. So though it may look like this is very safe on this turn, future turns it may not be.
The bigger problem here from Logan's position, you know, facing against Destructive Revelry here is it's not even just about the Aqueous Form. You get the feeling he has to get Ordeal of Heliod to trigger to be able to win this race unless something really weird happens. And with the Destructive Revelry completely shuts that off.
Mortal's Ardor has come into play. A card we don't see a ton of here. Now that is target creature gets +1/+1 and gains a lifelink until end of turn. A little sneaky combat trick from its limited format.
And this represents a reasonable proxy for having Ordeal of Heliod.
Well, Bluegrass was the draw this turn for OBryant, so some options here for Chris. Does have double green mana thanks to Elvish Mystic and Mana Confluence.
Well, the bigger issue now from Christopher's perspective is there a way to conceal the presence of Destructive Revelry in his hand?
I think he's finding a way.
I mean, this does, you know, why would you top the Elvish Mystic? I suppose to save a point of damage from the Mana Confluence. So
yeah.
it is reasonably concealed.
His job here is to conceal this the best that he can and pick the right spot. This is part of what helped him beat Stephen Mann in their match yesterday to be 9-0, a Timely Destructive Revelry that actually did kill an Aqueous Form that allowed him to jump block. We're going to see if it comes up yet again. And we can't forget, too, that given that we are certainly in a racing situation here, the 2 damage that Destructive Revelry deals could certainly be important.
Oh, it's a big deal. It is definitely a big deal.
Mize is going to sacrifice his Flooded Strand. Search up a land here. I imagine a Plains, but we'll find out. And there it is.
You can see the rest of his hand is really only suited to attacking here. And I don't know he has another way to make his creature unblockable if he loses his Aqueous Form. So this Revelry could be a big problem.
What's interesting is, you know, is this the turn where you're supposed to use the Revelry and chump block with the Fanatic, right? Because if you take the 6 points of damage now, you might not get the chance again because of God's Willing. So are you supposed to pull the trigger on this now and say, okay, I'll kill that, chump block, move forward?
I think the Fanatic represents too much damage on the way back next turn that it's worth rolling the dice. Yeah, you might die. You know, that's totally true. But I think it's worth the risk. There's also the possibility that he can hold back a red blocker and a green blocker and make it much less likely that he dies to things like God's Willing or Fatal Resistance.
Well, Mize has gotten his damage across. OBryant's down to 6. He's looking to finish it off. Got some creatures to play as far as blocking is concerned here. This is where the creatures play a different role in this matchup. He plays a Battle-Wise Hoplite. That thing might just be on chump blocking duty to get in front of Rebel Master here.
I mean, he is representing lethal on the way back here, so he can try to play this from the position of just preserve my life total as much as possible.
There's always an interesting situation, too, where am I supposed to leave up mana? Am I supposed to just say, play 2 Battle-Wise Hoplites, pass the turn back, try to kill you next turn?
I think 2 copies of Battle-Wise Hoplite, there's a very good chance that that results in death.
Now, Christopher's going to use Destructive Revelry now to get that off of the table. He's going to go down 5 to do so. This means it unlocks his mana for this turn, which is certainly helpful. Temple of Triumph is the draw. To go along with an Elvish Mystic and a copy of Lucanos in hand.
And I think Christopher was really hoping that turn to draw a red creature, so he could leave back Elvish Mystic and a red creature and make that God's Willing play a lot more prohibitive for Logan. But
no, he still does have the ability to do that in some capacity. Rabble Master can hang out, not get into the red zone.
yeah, just the opportunity cost on leaving back a creature like Rabble Master is really high here. I'm sure Christopher would just like to be able to swing just with all of his largest creatures.
There's a Johnny's Presence. Top card's going to become the bottom one very, very quickly there for Mize. Fnatic is then going to lose that fight. 3 damage will come across. There's a Temple. Take a look at the top card. It becomes the bottom card. Will OBryant play Pelucrados this turn? He has the option of that or Elvish Mystic. He'll have to take 1 to cast no matter what. He'll go with Pelucrados. He's down to 4. It's a passing of the turn. And one thing that we know about Mize and Man and their build of this deck, they love Stratus Walk.
Yeah, 4 copies, and I would be surprised if any of them got cut in this matchup.
And he's got a couple looks at it too. That's the big one. Because he has 2 copies of Defiant Strike in his hand, so he can certainly get there.
But I do not believe he has the kill right now. I think as things currently stand, Christopher can block out of this turn.
Step 1, Defiant Strike. Go after this one. Scrying such a big deal here to try to find a Stratus Walk. Top card becomes the bottom. Now he gets a mystery draw. That is not a Stratus Walk, just a Flooded Strand. So if you're rooting for Christopher OBryant, he's dodged 1 bullet.
He's still not out of the woods even if Logan fails to kill him this turn.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of looks at a kill here.
He's giving this card a long look over. Looks like he's going to leave it on top, draw a card. Sacrifice this. And no, it's not a Stratus Walk. It is an Ordeal of Heliod, and that might just solidify things anyway. As winning the race now is very hard for OBryant to do.
Yeah, now this represents Christopher having to chump block twice. He doesn't even get to trade the Pelucrados for anything. Logan gets to gain 10. I mean, this is a big swing.
Yeah, Logan gets to scry again with Battle-Wise Hoplite as well, and Christopher knows he's going to pack it up. Logan Mize is going to win this match here over Christopher OBryant. White-Blue Heroic will take care of Red-Green Monsters. Mize avenges his friend's loss and Stephen Mann over OBryant yesterday, but more importantly, moves on to 11-2.
No doubt about it, that matchup felt really bad from Christopher's side of the table. Just there were so many plays that Logan made over the course of the 2 games for 1 mana or 2 mana that ate up 4 or 5 mana out of Christopher's side of the table. There was too many times that he broke serve there. And Logan's deck was also a lot faster to get on the board and start doing productive things. So the matchup did not look good. And you can see the absence of the blue cards there, the ability to get rid of big creatures that Christopher doesn't really have. That definitely influenced the way that Logan's able to play the game. He can be very aggressive about enchanting his creatures, doesn't have to worry about any real sweeper occurring, doesn't have to worry about Jeskai Charm putting things on top of the deck. He can just try to make something as big as possible, as fast as possible, and Christopher's deck is just not very well suited to handle that kind of game plan.
You have to imagine this is the kind of deck that Heroic just praised.